Halftime show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as I'm trying to figure out my headset situation. As we have a reaction Monday to just a gut puncher. Losing Saturday at home to Alabama in a game flat out you should have won. I'll get mine in here in a minute, but we have a tradition on this here show on a Monday. We got to bring in some guy who's going to give us his Monday monologue. Phillips, right? Is that Phillips, correct? Is that your name, sir?
You've already put us on the back foot here because you called it the halftime show.
Did I say halftime show?
And I was just about to say that.
Damn, how'd I do that? Every now and then I still do that, Jay.
Well, because you're so used to me getting this thing kicked off, but I'm working from the house today. So anyway, yeah, post-game show, but whatever it is, yes, no, we do. And I think you're absolutely right in terms of should have won the football game. You're up 8 points late. You're at home. That crowd was rocking. You've got to find the ways. And Shane has admitted as much in his post game and in his Sunday teleconference that. And I, Terry, look, was that the best game they played? I don't know. They lost, so no. That being said, when you have a team that's playing as well as Alabama come in, whatever Alabama may have been feeling, and I've talked to people already, well, Bama didn't take it seriously. I'm not so sure. I think Alabama had their moment at the beginning of the season. You and I mentioned that last week, that Alabama was going to come in here not overlooking South Carolina. You made a great point about the stats around Kalen DeBoer's time as a head coach and what his teams have historically done on the road against unranked opponents, where they do have a tendency to let down. I just think South Carolina, it could be a blend, right? But I think South Carolina may have put its best effort out there. I can't say it was their best game. I think you got to look at Kentucky probably for that. The defense was outstanding. The defense was just outstanding. And when you think about it too, with Alabama getting that crazy 18-yard pick six off just a tipped pass, think of how well the defense really did to keep Alabama out of the end zone most of the game. I know there's a lot of debate. We have a poll question about it, about the final touchdown. I certainly understand that strategy. We'll come back around to that. But I thought Clayton White's unit played really well. Neither one of these teams ran the ball well. If I look at it right, let me make certain here. South Carolina averaged right at 3 yards a carry. Alabama 3.1 yards per carry. So neither one of them ran well. I think you split the turnover battle. Lenoris had his moments. But it's the little things. And the little things are going to be those things that keep South Carolina from getting to that next level. And the late mistakes were costly. If you want to put the fumble on Lenoris, put it on Lenoris. He's got to secure the football. If you want to say it was a great defensive effort to really just rip that ball out of there and put it on the ground, both can be true. But I think, Terry, to me, a lack of creativity late on offense really kind of kept Carolina just almost in I don't want to say a play not to lose mode, because I don't believe that's what was happening relative to some of the things we've talked about with this program in the past. But and we'll get more detail in a bit on where I'm coming from here, but I think there's a couple of instances late where you've got to do more, and I'm going to shock a lot of people here. I kid. You've got to do more in certain situations than run the ball between the tackles when you can't really run the ball between the tackles. And I'm not saying that was the end-all, be-all, but you've got to find a way to keep Alabama guessing. And when you don't, ultimately, a team that is more talented than you, and Alabama is more talented than South Carolina, will find ways to fill in those cracks and to ultimately get that dam to burst and come back and do what they did. I've seen some painful ones. I don't know where this one ranks. I'm not going to say, but hardest one to watch ever, because trust me, I've been around this program a long time, and those of you that have know what I mean. But you can get so close and be so far away all at once. And I feel badly for those kids, especially because, once again, Terry, maybe you don't say it's their best game of the season, but I think you might be able to really make a case that over the course of the hour, it might have been their best effort, and their best effort obviously was not good enough.
Yeah, and the frustrating part of it, Jay, is for the second straight year, you walk off the field feeling like you were the better team. And this time, last year, my whole thing is like, again, you lose. Doesn't fix it, and there's no moral victories. But you won the last three quarters in Tuscaloosa last year. You were down 14-0. After that, you pretty much took the fight. You just had some crippling turnovers. You played better on Saturday for 4 quarters. There was a point in the first half, before Alabama got that last drive going, they had 45 total yards. In the second half, you had outscored them 16-0, Jay, until they got the big drive to go down the field to tie the game. You pretty much controlled this football game, and you hit all the things you and I talked about. You got to play your most complete game on all 3 phases. Alabama's got to show up with that DeBoer thing on the road, big favorite. You got some big plays on offense. Sellers was cooking. He was your offense, what you had to do. You forced some turnovers. You put heat on Ty Simpson. All those things you and I talked about they had to do. Guess what, Jay? In some way, shape, or form, they did it. And They still came up short because, again, too many field goals. You turn the ball over in crucial moments. A ball bounces off Faison's hands. It becomes a pick six. The holding call on Tree that wiped out the touchdown that we're not talking about enough, whether you thought it was legit or not, was gigantic in this game because you had to kick a field goal. That's the frustration is you outplayed them, but they get to celebrate and you walk off the field disappointed again.
And it's hard, like I say. They have so many good players on the other side. And does it come down to something like that? In some ways, maybe a bit, but I'm with you. I got to tell you, I knew, because I put this in my write-up that Jack Veltri has us do on Central, that it was going to take a monumental defensive effort for Carolina to be around this game, and I just didn't know if Carolina could do enough offensively. And I think the Gamecocks still didn't do enough offensively. But the defense was outstanding. They really were. They were just outstanding. And like I say, 7 of Alabama's 29 points came from a pick six. So you went toe to toe offensively with them, if you want to look at it that way, or defensively, depending on your point of view. So, I feel for those kids for what they were out there trying to do. But Terry, 2 plays stand out to me. One, after the punt mistake by Bama, where Carolina had that chance, and I forget where the ball was on the 30-something, right? But right there, and I know they had gone for the jugular once before. You and I talked about this. But on that first play of that next drive after Alabama's mistake and Carolina got the ball back, you ran up the middle. I go for an end zone pass there. I do. Maybe you hit it, maybe you don't. But that goes back to something that I think Steve Spurrier always believed in, and we saw Lane Kiffin do it against Oklahoma the other day too. On plays like that, you've got the opponent on their mental heels as much as their physical heels. Take advantage of it. Find a way. They were just out there. Dadgummit, we got to come back out here again. Mm-hmm. Bang, hit them. And instead, you go up the middle for a yard. Right? And then after Alabama tied the ball game, you get the ball right there. I'm thinking, all right, here comes a drive. Let's go win this football game. And you run up the middle for a yard. I'm not saying that's the end-all, be-all. And I don't want to throw too much on Mike Shula because, there were some things they did on Saturday that were good. But in those 2 late specific instances, South Carolina needed to do more to show and prove and feel that they were there to win the football game. And 2 runs for 2 yards doesn't cut it, not in my opinion.
And to the point we to kind of drive this more is the 54-yard touchdown to Harbor was coming off of that type of thing where you got the quick turnover, you got the ball on downs, you stopped them, Ryan Williams dropped the pass, and so Alabama went out on downs, and you came back because getting stopped on downs to me is a turnover. You get stopped on downs, and your first shot was 54 yards down the field to Harbor for a touchdown. Again, that kind of aggressiveness. And to your point, look, you can say, well, you did it once. Yeah, but, you can do it more than once. I checked the rule book. I did, Jay. I checked the rule book today. You can do it more than once. And maybe you don't take the deep shot, but let's say you take a shot down the field on a deep crosser or a deep sideline or a dig or just, a little play action, fire it down the field for 20 or 25 yards because that's aggressive too. There are ways to be aggressive that don't involve just turning and running the ball up the middle. And look, I get I get that you don't want to give up on something like that and you want to try it at times. Let me give you a quick stat here. All right, South Carolina, if you take out sacks, ran it, like you said, for 3.5 yards a pop, 35 carries, 124 yards. Take out Lenore Sellers' non-sack rushing yardage, 80 yards on 16 carries. So if you take 16 carries and 80 yards out of the equation, the running backs average 2.4 yards a carry. And at the end of the day, if we sit and we look at this by direction, for an example, running the ball up the middle in this football game, you ran it 12 times up the middle, and you got 38 yards, which is barely 3 yards a pop, and most of that was on the one run by Faison, the 16 yards.
Right.
Then you take that away, those numbers go down a ton. So my point is, that play wasn't working. And at some point, when you're getting to go time and money time in the game, and you got to start, doing things to win the football game for whatever the situation is, maybe that's a play you put to the side because it's not working. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's what I'm talking about. I understand the need to not only establish but to maintain. So this isn't going to be. Look, I know a lot of fans are already incredibly frustrated with what they see from Mike Shula. I may not be as far down the road as some, but again, I'm trying to be very specific, as you know, but I'm trying to be very specific about those two particular situations. It's like, come on, man, this is winning time. I know you love that term, winning time. This is winning time. That's not a winning play for you. That's not working for you, and it's not setting anything up for you. All you do is set up 2nd and 9. That's all you're setting up, late, crucial. And then Alabama's defense can do so many things, whereas if you can find some creativity, I like what you said. It doesn't have to be I would have taken a shot to the end zone, but I'm just some dude, right? I'm just some guy. But all the other things that you said you could have done, or again, roll Lenoris out there. How about a jet sweep? How about some kind of, I don't want to say super tricky, right? But just something when Alabama is on their heels, at least after that punt play. Now, maybe not as much after the touchdown where they might be able to pin their ears back. But, again, running right into the teeth of their defense did what for you, I mean, and then it just turns back into the Lenoris show. Lenoris did have that run. Then he gets, the ball comes out. I understand these things, but I'm just looking at some of that as sort of a microcosm moment for where things were. But it's a tough one to watch because you had it. You had it. And you had it. And you didn't get it done.
Yep. And at the end of the day, like I said, you walk off the field going, man, we were better than them, and we lost. And that's the toughest one to swallow when you were better that day and they know you were better that day, but they leave the field celebrating and you don't. Hey, hang in here. Don't go anywhere. We'll talk to you some more.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, see if you can hang out. All right, we'll jump back in. Obviously, a Reaction Monday. Richard is on hold. Richard, we'll get to you in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. AAA, Heating and Air phone lines, 803-444-6100. Also the same number for the Firehouse Sub text line. It's a Reaction Monday. Feel free to react. It was a frustrating one as South Carolina loses 29-22 to Alabama. We'll get back into more of that next. Letting the Tide score. Right thing, wrong thing. That's part of what we'll get into coming up here on the Postgame show. I got it right here on the game.
I cannot. Well, yes, yeah. Like, you mean the audio cuts? Yes. Let's see what we got here. Well, since Terry mentioned it, how about 13? Who is it? Oh, sorry. Hi, welcome back in. Jay Phillips here. Sorry, Jalen, I didn't get the right live read in time, but I am getting it now. I just can pay attention to what I'm doing. Quick fixes don't win championships, kids. Vinyl, fiber cement, weak substitutes. They look good in warm-ups. They will not last you the entire season. That's why brick is your best defensive line. When you're ready to build something worth the investment, visit U.S. Brick's brand new exterior design center, 300 UG Street. We were out there a couple of weeks ago. In there, you can see it, feel it, touch it, know what it's going to look like. Not just brick, but stone and so many other great products to make your home, your backyard, your patio look better than ever. They're open Monday through Friday, but if you need to get in there another time, they'll work with you. Just call them up at 803-530-9005, or again, visit them at 300 UG Street, the great people at U.S. Brick.
If he got the first down. Same scenario as last year. Like, if you look back at the game last year, they really shouldn't have scored the touchdown. If you remember that play, they scored on 4th down. We busted the coverage. Like, the only reason that we had a drive to throw to Nick and a onside kick was because they scored and gave us the ball back. So what we said, I wanted them to kick us. Well, I used my timeouts. I wanted them to kick a 40-something yard field goal. But we said if they get the first down, we need to let them score, because otherwise they're just going to run the clock down and basically kick an extra point to win the game.
All right, there's Shane Beamer discussing the strategy behind letting Bama score that touchdown once they got the first down, got inside the 10, DQ Smith backed off, and Alabama gets the touchdown. Bernard scores. we'll get into that piece of strategy, good strategy, bad strategy, agree, disagree, whatever the case. We got that coming up. But first, it's a Reaction Monday, 803-404-6100. Richard has been holding on. Richard, appreciate you holding. You're on the game. How you doing?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are y'all? Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for ringing us. Yep, we're here.
Listen, I just got one thing to say. Y'all have been beating around the bush, and I've listened to most of your shows off and on all day, and everybody is just beating around the bush, and it appears, looking to find any other reason than the real reason we lost. And the fact of the matter is, and I'm going to preface this by saying I love Lenore Sellers as much as anybody, but he screwed up. He dropped the ball on the ground when we could least afford to drop the ball on the ground. That's the reason we lost. Not because of a missed two-point conversion or because of a mishandling the clock or letting the guy score. We lost because we fumbled when we absolutely could not afford to fumble. That's what lost the game for us, period. End of discussion. Thank y'all.
No, thanks, Richard. And again, that's your opinion, and that's fine, and you can say that. And you're not the only person that has said that. And I think there are people on our station who have talked about the fumble, and we just started the show. We haven't had a chance to get to it yet. But to me, Jay, Lenore Sellers fumbled. I mean, you can also, first of all, you say Lenore's, ball protection. We'll play the cut. Tell you what, Jalen, there's a cut in there, Lenore Sellers explaining the fumble. Tell me when it's ready. Jay, for me, I'm like, yeah, you need better ball security, but also you got to give, the Bama defensive player credit for ripping it out. Because if you're not in there ripping it out, then that play doesn't happen. But yeah, Lenore's has to protect the ball better, sure, but also sometimes the other guys play too. And putting it all on Sellers, you can to a point, but you got to give the Bama player credit as well.
That's why I said in my opening, I think both things can be, and in this instance, are true. I mean, Lenore, has to know that there's going to be guys coming after the football, and you do have to secure it. But to your point, just because, even if you are, someone is really making a nice effort there. And look, Richard, I get your frustration. I can't go all the way to say that's why South Carolina lost. At that point, the game was tied. I don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, if South Carolina, I could better understand Richard's level of frustration if South Carolina were still up at that point. But unless I've got my timeline wrong, that was after it was 22-all. So
right.
Yeah. So I get where he's coming from. But when you fumble the ball, right there at that moment in a tie game, look, it's detrimental. And I suppose his point is going to be it gave Alabama the easy march to the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
But I look, that was a bad play, and he's not wrong. I mean, you do when you're the quarterback in that situation, or the ball handler, but it's certainly the quarterback. Your number one job is protecting the football. So I'll lean more in that direction. But the game was tied, so did South Carolina still have a chance on defense? You could have done a couple of, like Shane said, if they don't get the first down, Terry, they're kicking, and maybe Carolina still has an opportunity to go down and do something else. So I'm not going to sit here and say Richard's wrong, because he's not. But putting all of it right there, maybe I don't go quite as far as he did.
I don't go quite as far as that either. I get where Richard's coming from. It was a huge play in the game, and Yellow Norris has got to have better ball protection. And when Dante Lawson is the defender that pulled it out. But then again, ball doesn't bounce off Rasul Faison's hands and becomes a pick six, you have a different game. Tree doesn't get called for holding.
These things. Yeah, we can do these things.
Right. I mean, we could sit here all day. I can give you 10 plays if go a different way or South Carolina executes better. You don't get into the situation where Lenore Sellers' fumble is going to be a big deal because the whole game's different. But in that moment, yes, it was gigantic, and it gave Alabama the ball to go win the game. So I don't disagree with that at all, but I can't say that's the only reason South Carolina lost the game. There's a multitude of things that happen here that go back to the multitude of things that have been happening all year, Jay.
Yeah. So, look, again, I get where he's coming from. I do. But, hold the football. I know you had a cut you wanted to play.
Yeah, just here's Lenoris explaining what happened on the fumble. Hit it, Jalen.
Yeah, you got a tie ball game, and you got Lenoris at quarterback, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this thing's set up perfect. Lead us down there on a 2-minute drive to go win this thing, and that didn't quite happen that way. He made a lot of great plays today, ran tough. Obviously, that play he'd love to, have back and give them credit for getting the ball out. But, even before that, though, we got an 8-point lead, and I think they went 80 yards, their offense did. I mean, that's what makes you sick. I mean, there's a lot of things that make you sick from today's game, but you got the lead, 8-point lead at home, and then they go right down the field 80 yards. Man, it's a championship drive by them. Give them credit, but it kind of goes back to what I said in the fourth quarter. We didn't do enough to win the game, and
All right, and real quick, here's Lenoris's. That was Shane's explanation of the fumble. Here's Lenoris's explanation of what happened with the fumble. Hit it, Jay.
So we had a QB draw in, and then so we ran to the middle, and I had two hands on it because I knew they was trying to strip it, and then so I had two hands on it. Now I'm thinking the ref's gonna blow the whistle. And then as soon as I started to fall down, when I was going to catch myself, that's when I took my other hand off, and I guess that's when they got under it.
So basically, Lenoris is saying he knew it. He had two hands on it. Remember, it was a big dog pile, Jay. And once Lenoris is going to the ground, he took his hand off to kind of brace his fall as he's heading to the ground, and that's when it got ripped out before he actually got to the ground. So there's your explanation. Doesn't make it any better, but, I mean, Lenoris was having the state of mind in his riff there that he had two hands on the ball. It's just when he was going to the ground, he took his hand off, and that's when, unfortunately, Lawson, the Bama defender, got in there and ripped it before Lenoris, his knees hit the ground.
And that'll be a teaching moment for Lenoris because he admits in there, well, I figured the ref was going to blow the whistle, so I went to go ahead and catch myself. Well, one of the things that we hear in football all the time, play to the whistle.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, again, I to our caller a minute ago, I get where he's coming from, and I would lean more in that direction for sure. But that's just a you can't have it. And if you and for Lenoris, there's two things there. If you know it's coming in terms of the potential strip, protect the football. But land on somebody. You'll have to catch yourself later, or you're just gonna. Yeah. And easier for me to say. I understand that, but play to the whistle. If you didn't hear the whistle, then you better keep those hands on the football.
And again, it's one of these things that happen to you, Jay, when you're 3-5. He's got two hands on the ball. He's anticipating a whistle, which you never do. He's going to the ground. Human nature says, okay, I got to break my fall. And with all that intersecting, you get an Alabama player making a heads-up play by seeing the ball and ripping at it. And, of course, it happens right before Sellers does hit the ground. But you're right. You got to cover it with two hands and fall down on the ground. If you hit your elbows, hopefully you'll be okay. But that, even though the explanation, you go, okay, that's what was going through his head, yes, there are important moments in that short seconds of sequence that obviously made a huge difference that you got to learn from.
Absolutely. By the way, I had a buddy of mine hit me, and he's right. Like, Carolina did score after Alabama had the punt situation.
Yeah, that's when Lenoris ran for the touchdown. Yeah, Lenoris ran for the touchdown.
And I get that. And I had that on my note here to say I know they went ahead. My point, Terry, was more about in the moment, the creativity. I'm glad they ended up scoring on that, but I'll stand by my point on what I was saying about where I think things should be in moments like that. So that was the point I was trying to make there.
All right, good deal. Plus, you're loopy on meds.
No, not today.
Right. All right.
Not today. Thank God, not today.
We will pop in and talk about do you let them score or not? We've got a Twitter poll on it, and, man, people are taking their sides. We'll get to that next on the postgame show. Terry Ford, Jay Phillips, Jalen, we're rolling up until 6 here on the game.
All right, the leaves are piling up in your yard. The pine straw is falling down. You don't want to get out there with a rake. You might not even want to get out there with a blower. But you probably could use a blower better than a rake. Or you could just use your lawnmower and get all those things sucked up right at once into the bag, even mulch that stuff up. Well, right now at Cato's Power Equipment, they are ready to make sure that your mower is ready to handle all of that through the end of the week. Only got a little bit of time left. They're offering 25% off all shop labor on service and repair work on your Toro mower, your Aaron's mower, your Gravely Zero Turn. If you've got a big rider and you need a little help, then for an extra $100, they'll come pick it up, take it to the shop, get it all fixed up, bring it back to you here in the greater Columbia area. Don't let the worn-out equipment slow you down during leaf season. Fresh blades, engine service, upgrade to a bag or mulch kit. Cato's gets it done for you. 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, or schedule an appointment at 254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment.
He's got to step up and make plays. Let's see if we can find someone to be a hero here in the second half. Down 14-6. Faison will start the second half with Norris Sellers. Bama crowding the line of scrimmage. Jaden Sellers goes behind him in motion. Lenoris backs up, throwing post route. He's got a man there. Caught. Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown, Nick Harbor. Nobody going to get the big guy from 54 yards out. It's 14-12. We could go for two and tie it up at Williams-Brice Stadium.
All right, there is our buddy Todd Ellis on the call. The Nick Harbor 54-yard touchdown catch. Coming off the stopping Alabama on downs. Then you get the ball, and why aggressiveness can really be a good thing. Take your shot downfield. It worked. Harbor, touchdown. South Carolina cut the margin to 14-12. Post-game show reaction Monday. Terry Ford, Jay Phillips is lounging, getting fed grapes, getting a pedicure. Just,
Yeah.
That's the life. Jalen Tart's here. We'll get to you on the phones, 803-404-6100 on a Reaction Monday, AAA heating and air phone lines, and the Firehouse Sub text lines as well. All right, Jay, we have a little Twitter poll going we're going to get to in a minute about the strategy at the end of the game. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Ready?
Okay.
All right, so I was just doing my thing yesterday, and I had somebody ask me about the end of the game. Older gentleman. And he looked at me, he's like, why'd they do that? And I said, well, you're kind of in a rock and a hard place. If, they get the first down on 3rd and 10 and they get the ball deep in your territory, the field goal becomes like an extra point, and they're just going to now run the clock out, kick the field goal, and you never get the ball back again. Or you let them score, then you're going to have some time on the clock to possibly go down the field and maybe, and it's, again, the odds are against you, but get the ball back and go down the field and possibly tie the game. That way, at least you get the ball. The other way, you're going to hope to block the kick, or they miss the kick, or they screw up the snap, or whatever. I said, so really none of your choices are great, but those are your choices. And South Carolina went with the idea of trying to get the ball back in 16's hands for 40-some seconds or 30-some seconds to try to go down and tie the game. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I tell you. You know what he said to me? You know what he said to me, Jay? He goes, well, watch how he just gave up. Looks like the game was fixed. And he walked away.
Huh. Well, I had not thought about that particular angle.
I wanted to say, dude, this isn't the NBA.
I don't have a problem with that particular strategy. I think what was unfortunate is that you had to go, and you didn't know this at the time, but then you had to go 91 yards.
Yeah.
And I think you completed one pass for, what was it? I don't know. They got a first down, but by then there was nothing left to do.
Right.
But it's not the wrong. I mean, you're right. I think it's that's picking three different types of poison and hoping that you find the one that's not as bad. I don't know. I know some people might say, well, this is a good special teams unit and maybe they could block the kick. Well, what are the odds of that, right? Or how much smack talk can you have to the long snapper to snap it over the kid's head, or whatever. Hit the kicker in the face mask with the snap. Again, that not likely to happen. You wanted what you wanted more than anything, Terry, is one that wasn't one of those options because it happened ahead of time, and don't let them get that first down.
Exactly. And I was going to go to that, Jay. I was going to say the best strategy was stop them short on 3rd and 10 and force the Bama kicker, who has been shaky 40-plus, to maybe kick a field goal around 40-ish or a little bit longer, and then you try to block it, or hopefully he misses it, and then you roll into getting the ball, late game scenario, you go overtime, whatever. That's really the best solution, right, is don't let them get the first down and put themselves in position where you got to make a choice of letting them score. That's really, that's the best scenario. And at the end of it, none of these scenarios were great because the percentages were small, right? But to your point, the best thing to do there is don't let them convert 3rd and 10. And that's the best way. And you couldn't do it as well as your defense played. You couldn't stop them on the critical 3rd and 10. Then you had to make a choice of, okay, do we, knock them out of bounds and just watch them run the clock down and hopefully we can block the field goal or they miss it? Or do we try to get the ball back in our hands to try to make some magic? It's not a great scenario.
Yeah, and I have on my rundown here, I have, because I mentioned this earlier, I thought the defense was outstanding, by and large, but I have defense did its part until it didn't. And you think of the last, and that matters. I'm not here to say, so, hey, no big deal. It is a big deal. As Shane mentioned in the clip we had a few minutes ago, they went all the way down the field to tie the game. And then when you really needed just one more stop to try to put yourself in some kind of position to still feel good about an opportunity, or at least not to feel just terrible about the opportunity, you didn't make that play either. So, I mean, you must give Alabama the credit that it's due. And I know nobody wants to, but both of these things have to play into the equation. You know, your defense did a nice job throughout the day, but when it mattered most, maybe the better football team found ways to beat you, and you didn't make those plays. You know, I think it comes down to things like that. But on that long final drive, they were very methodical. And again, that third down was crucial, Terry, and they made it. And it was a 3rd and long, so you know you didn't stop it. And you got to at home with a tie game, you got to find a way. You got to find a way, and Carolina just could not.
Yeah, Alabama converted 2 third downs on that drive, and to your point, it was a 3rd and 7 at the Bama 24. There was a little bit under 9 minutes left, and you know Simpson hits Bernard for 13. And then you had another 3rd and 4 later in the drive, and again, Alabama converts that 3rd down there as well. So as good as you were all game, and especially the 3rd quarter when the defense was on fire, in that 4th quarter, on that drive, when you're ahead still, and you need to get off the field, unfortunately, you couldn't get that stop, and that was vital in this football game. But like you said, there's a reason why they're number 4 in the country. And one of the reasons, Jay, is it seems like in their winning streak, when it comes to those big plays that tilt games, Alabama's been making all of them. They just have.
They have. I think they got their wake-up call in Tallahassee, and maybe they got a little second one here in late October in Columbia. Who knows? But they didn't lose this time. And again, I know how much it hurts. Trust me, I've seen these, man. You know, back in my high school days, games with Nebraska, games with Georgia, you know, a tie with Clemson, a tie with Virginia Tech one year, I could go. I don't want to go on and on, you know, because I've seen some fun ones too. But you know, South Carolina is not the more talented team. I think you made a good point on Saturday. By and large, they were the better team. I think that too, but doesn't matter, you know, and it just, there's only so many ways to try and carve it out. There's no silver lining here either, and that's something I know we'll talk about a little bit later on. But what does this mean now? You know, you are a heavy underdog this weekend. You'll be a heavy underdog against an A&M team that we're going to talk a lot about in just a little bit because of what they caused to happen, not only with their win, but with the LSU loss. And then you come home and try to salvage a couple of games with in-state teams. I mean, you knew you needed one of these, you know, and it's looking really difficult when you got to go to Oxford and to College Station right now. Looking really difficult because those two teams seem to be headed toward the playoff, and maybe that battered Aggie syndrome they call it on SEC shorts,
right?
Maybe they're putting that one to the side for now. You know, we'll see. But boy, A&M really looked apart, and I thought Ole Miss was super strong against Oklahoma.
All right, real quick on our Twitter poll. Do you approve or disapprove of the decision to let Alabama score the touchdown late to get the ball back? 55% disapprove, 45% approve. We've already had almost 1,000 views and over 100 votes already. So at 1075thegame.com. All right, we'll jump back. Jimmy, I appreciate you. We didn't want to cut you short. We're going to get you to the next segment so you get time to get your point out. Also, hey, that really sucked is also coming up. That's next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, Jay laying on his couch. We've got Jalen. We're going till 6 on the game. All right, post-game show, Terry Ford, Jay Phillips, Jalen's here. We're going to get to Jimmy in a second on a Reaction Monday on the AAA Heating and Air phone line. But first, Jay, we have two that really sucked. Here's number one. This is the obvious. It happened in Baton Rouge Saturday night. Hit it, Jalen.
From the pocket, Reed scrambling and scoring. Second rushing touchdown for the Aggie quarterback. A&M back on top.
All right, you can dump it there, Jalen. That's good. 49-25. If you were sitting in Death Valley and you were an LSU fan or wearing those goofy suspenders or having face paint on, that really sucked. And the only good news for you if you're an LSU fan is you don't have to put up with Brian Kelly anymore.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that here coming up in a little bit.
Yep.
But, yeah. All right, next.
All right, Jalen has one. Go ahead, Jalen, really quick.
I feel bad for Mississippi State fans after they thought that they won the game in the fourth quarter, but Twitter is going crazy right now about Brandon Walker running onto the field with like 5 minutes left in the game, and he had a film crew behind him, and they took the game to overtime. And on the game-sealing touchdown from Tennessee, there's a picture of Brandon Walker's soul being taken out of his body, and it just looks so bad.
Nothing worse than premature celebration, Jay.
No, there's not, and I know that to that extent, I know some of the Carolina students that wanted to rush down from the upper student section down to the end zone are getting a little bit of ridicule for. They didn't. I mean, it's like they rushed the field yet,
right?
But I guess but they wanted to make sure they were down there. That's too bad. But what a win for Texas.
I'll tell you what, that was one of those. You don't want to come back home after that loss in Starkville. They saved themselves a ton of grief with that W, no doubt. All right, 803-404-6100, AAA Heating and Air. Phone lines, Reaction Monday. Jimmy's been holding one. He wants to talk about that Lenore Sellers fumble. Jimmy, thanks for hanging. You're on the post-game show on the game. What's up?
Hey, Terry, appreciate you taking my call. I was at the game Saturday night, and when Lenore fumbled the football, or supposedly fumbled the football, there were several things that run through my mind when that happened. Number one was the forward progress stop. Number two, the same official that called the fumble was the one that called the hold on Tree Babalati on the touchdown run. And number three was on the Jumbotron, the ball was laying beside Lenore, and then somebody covered it. So was he down? And they never reviewed it.
And that's a good point. Thank you, Jimmy. I mean, I don't remember. Did they review it, Jay? Didn't they review it?
Because turnover plays are automatically reviewed.
Right.
Yeah, turnover plays have to be reviewed by rule.
Yeah, I know, because usually, typically, obviously in the NFL, they're always reviewed.
College as well. College is the same thing.
And look, here's the thing. Remember this. The call on the field was a fumble. You need clear evidence to prove that the call is incorrect. And if you don't have the angles to get clear evidence to overturn it, they're not going to overturn a call without clear evidence.
Well, look, Jimmy might not want to hear this. I think the right call was made. I mean, that was a fumble.
Yeah, it seemed like from everything we saw, Jay, it seemed like a fumble, unfortunately.
Yeah, but no, they have to review those. So it was reviewed.
I'll say this, the Tree Babalati hold, again, was it the most egregious hold I've ever seen in my life? No. Have I seen worse holds not called? Yes. Was it by the letter of the rule a hold? Yeah. But it wasn't like, we've seen worse holds not called, but if you want to go by the letter of the rule, it was a hold. Tree had a hold of the edge defender, unfortunately.
Yeah, and look, that's the thing. Those are such subjective calls. I'm not here to make excuses for any officials.
No, God, no.
Much. But kind of like the LSU game last year. If you give them something, sometimes they're going to call it. And look, how many times might you have benefited from it? Who knows? But unfortunately, I think the Lenoris play. I think the call was the right call. I mean, the ball was pulled out and South Carolina lost possession. But no, they have to review those.
Yeah, and the angles that we saw, there was no angle that showed his knee down. and him still having the ball.
No.
So
And I was watching on TV on Saturday. So I was watching all that in real time live, and no, not
because you know what, Jay? I don't know about you. When you see the fumble and they're calling a fumble, I'm like, man, I hope to God they got a shot of his knees down.
Yeah.
You know,
I think they got it again. Sadly, I think they got it right. So that's the best I can say on that one.
All right, we will jump back in here. Speaking, well, obviously we'll continue on talking about Gamecocks and what happened on Saturday at Williams-Bryson, a very difficult loss to Alabama, and we will also. Governors can get coaches fired. What a world we live in college sports. That's coming up. Post-game show, a reaction Monday. We'll hear from you on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines and the Firehouse subtext line. Both are 803-404-6100. Talking about a really, really tough loss at Williams-Brice on Saturday, getting beat 29-22 by the Alabama Crimson Tide in a game you really outplayed them for 4 quarters, but you still don't pull a W. Now 3-5 South Carolina will travel to Oxford to take on an Ole Miss team who just left Norman, Oklahoma with a really impressive road W. And right now, Ole Miss, Jay, is heavily favored in their next 4 games. Again, the Egg Bowl's the Egg Bowl. Kooky things happen. But if Ole Miss navigates their next 4 games like the computers say they will roll out of the regular season 11-1.
81% chance to beat South Carolina, 13.5-point favorites as we speak. You know, look, I don't want anybody to roll their eyes when I say what I'm getting ready to say, because as it stands right now, I don't give. I think 19% sounds about right. But can things happen this weekend similar to what happened last year when Kentucky went to Oxford and won a football game as a clearly outmatched team? I doubt it. If you want to find anything to cling to, that's going to have to be it. I think in that ball game last year, Mississippi, and that was earlier in the season as well, just kind of said, it's Kentucky, no big deal. I don't know that Lane is allowing them to do that this season. We shall see. So am I going to predict that that's what happens? No, Terry, I am not. But it does happen in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about it, man, because otherwise, what are we looking at here? And Trinidad Chambliss, I don't know who the surprise player of the season is, and I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman, although he can. But is there anybody I'm missing that is a bigger surprise, considering he wasn't even supposed to be the guy? I'm not so sure, but that kid has been electric for Mississippi this year.
And remember, he came in the portal. He didn't come from another power school or group of 5. He came from lower division than that. A good football program, but not a Division I football program. And he wasn't even the starting quarterback. He was the backup to Austin Simmons.
He was the backup. Yeah,
right.
He did not come up. Yeah. So he's been, that's why I say, surprise player of the year. He might end up being the best player of the year, too. Again, there's a lot more candidates for that, but I don't know what kind of trophy they give for the
surprise player of the year.
Breakout player, but unless I'm missing somebody, man, it's that kid.
Yeah, and really, look, Simmons struggled early, a lot of turnovers, got hurt. They put Chambliss in because Simmons got hurt, and then Lane went, well, I think we found our quarterback. And
the other day, 3, let me get it, hold on, because that was our tiebreaker stat. He had 368 total offensive yards.
And that's against, by the way, one of the best defenses in America.
Yeah, in their house.
In their house. Yes. Yeah. And the flip side of that is, look at Oklahoma's schedule the rest of the year, Jay. Woo!
Well, it might get, I don't know, now the LSU game for Oklahoma seems a little less daunting to end the season. But, Oklahoma's got Alabama still. They're in rough shape.
Yeah, that's
not rough shape, but that's not going to be easy.
No, not at all. All right, post-game show. Terry, Jay, Jalen, we'll get to you on a reaction Monday at 803-404-6100. Hang in there. All right, speaking of LSU, sir, man, this was like Real Housewives of Baton Rouge, dude. This was crazy.
I want to say I'm surprised. Let's step back a little bit to a couple of things, because again, full disclosure, yours truly was not hopped up on goofballs, thank goodness, just having to recover. But I was in a hospital bed. But I was watching this and the World Series game, the LSU A&M game. I was going back and forth throughout the evening, and on multiple occasions, I saw Brian Kelly just berating people, whether it was Nussmeier for a minute, a couple other players, assistant coaches. It's almost like everything he was doing, and I'll be careful as I say how I say this. but it felt like everything he was doing, you could almost see him, this isn't my fault. This isn't my responsibility. This is your responsibility. What are you doing wrong? I told you to do it right. Why are you, and we've seen him act that way in other public instances. And I just think, Terry, I'm not saying that's why he got fired. Look, what do I say a bunch, or ask a bunch when it comes to sports, especially football? How did you lose? Because the other two games they lost, I think, were by 7 and 5.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm sure,
I think you're right.
I wrote
one score
down.
losses.
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I got it here. Yeah, 7, and they lost by 5 to Mississippi and by 7 to Vanderbilt. You lost at home by 24, and you were. And the problem is you were in the game. I mean, you had a halftime lead.
Yeah, and you were in the game in the third quarter, and then all heck broke loose. Yep.
So it isn't. It isn't like you just. I mean, just something snapped. Something broke in the third quarter of that game, and that's what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying that it was those instances, but I would love to know more, and we'll talk, with some of our LSU buddies, like our guy Matt Moscona and others down that way, and maybe find out as time goes by here over the next week or so, what was that straw that broke the camel's back? Because Kelly just seemed to lose it on a bunch of people, and I'm just wondering if that immediately spread like some kind of virus through the sideline, all to where it's just like, you know what, screw this guy. I'm tired of this guy. I doubt that's what it was. I know A&M is a really good football team, but are they 24 points better than LSU in Death Valley on a Saturday night? I'm not convinced of, Terry, because I know, as you do and the whole world of college football knows, very few rosters ever in any season will be more talented than the LSU roster. That's one of the great mysteries of college football life. Why doesn't LSU win more titles when you look at the draft every year? You look at the recruiting rankings every year, and this might come into one of your points, too, about, the politics involved. But Brian Kelly lost the room, and then Brian Kelly lost any support that he had from Scott Woodward or Governor Landry or anybody else. But something happened. Something snapped. Something broke. Something gave out. And then LSU just went on about their business the rest of the way. So I don't want to oversimplify it or say it was that. But I don't know how much you might have noticed of that in watching that game. But I was like, dang, Brian Kelly really just seems to be throwing a lot of blame on staffers and players without ever seeming to want to accept responsibility for the fact that he's the man making $10.5 million a year to run a very talented, very proud, and very, I don't want to say entitled, but very right, the right expectation levels. I mean, LSU should expect to win conference and national championships on a routine basis because they have the players and the resources to do it.
Yeah, I feel like with Kelly, and you're right, Kelly was yelling at everybody. Kelly's yelling at the Tiger. Kelly's yelling at, Kirk Herbstreit. I mean, Kelly was losing it to multiple people on the sideline. And I'm with you. I'm like, dude, you're the head coach. Instead of sitting there screaming, yelling at everybody, shouldn't you be trying to figure out how to get this thing right? And the thing with Kelly is...
And he didn't have to hug him, Terry. I'm not saying hug him and love him and pat him on the back, but there's got to be a nurturing moment in there, too, a teaching moment. This is college sports, after all.
And that's my point. That was my point, too,
blow
Jay.
it up with anger. Yeah,
and that's my point is... You can scream, because I'll go by my dad, Dean Ford, the great philosopher. All right, getting mad and throwing stuff and yelling, what'd that fix? Nothing. Now you got a mess to clean up. Good job.
Right.
I just feel like that's what Brian Kelly, stop yelling. You can yell and scream at everybody later, behind closed doors if you feel the need. But right now, the game is going to hell in a handbasket, right? Like my aunt would say. Yeah. You need to concentrate and focus on fixing things. Yelling at what just happened doesn't fix anything. What you got to do now is figure out what we got to do to get it right and move forward so we can stay in this football game. And the thing with Kelly, too, remember this, though, Jay, this is a guy that's never been unsuccessful. From Grand Canyon State on, this dude has had nothing but success as a head coach in college football. And at LSU, he was successful, just not to the level he was hired to be successful. So here's a guy that probably doesn't know how to handle the fact that he is being criticized for not being successful because he always has been. So if you're Brian Kelly and we know the guy is not Mr. Personality and he is Mr. Ego, when you're Mr. Ego and you got the personality of a sweat sock, you're going to start blaming everybody else because sure the hell can't be you, right? So
it certainly, it seems that way. Certainly seems that way.
And I just feel like, when you are like Brian Kelly, you get no leeway. You were brought in there as a mercenary to win big. You didn't win big. You didn't embrace the community. You basically were who you've always been, which has always been fine, but now it wasn't fine, and you didn't know how to handle it, and you handled it very poorly. What do you got, Jalen?
I'll just say, from a performance perspective, to see Notre Dame make the title game after you left is kind of an embarrassment and shot in a slap to the face where it was a lot of pressure put on him. Your offense was really good last year, and your defense was not great. Now this year, your defense is really good, and your offense is very, predictable. Mm-hmm. And it just got away from him, and now he's in the position the way he is right now. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's... And go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, to further Jalen's point, too, not just make the playoff, Jalen, but to win 3 games in the playoff. Mm-hmm. I mean, they made the title game, and they beat a really good Georgia team along the way. I think Jalen nailed it right there. That might say a lot more about Brian Kelly, that he can get you to the precipice, but he can't lead you through. And we'll see what happens with Notre Dame later on too. But I think, Terry, you made a good point. He was brought in as a mercenary. He was brought in to win now. And I know that all of us around this sport that cover it every day like we do, I'll certainly raise my hand. I thought he'd have a title there by year 3.
Absolutely.
I thought that now what he's got is what he's wanted. The most complete roster he can get, and they never put it together. Record-setting offense, Heisman winner a couple of years ago with an electrifying college football player in Jaden Daniels. I mean, truly, we've seen a lot of great – all Heisman winners are great. But there are categories of just electrifying player. And what Daniels was doing to SEC defenses that season was incredible. But they couldn't tackle anybody. That's on him. He didn't set them up for the ultimate success. And it's like you and I have said about a lot of teams. You don't have to be the top 10 defense, too. You just needed to be a top 50 defense, maybe even a top 60, 75 defense. But instead, they were so bad. Anyway, I think this is not surprising to me because, again, he lost everything. And that's why I say it's not as simple as somewhere in the third quarter he just lost it and everybody said, screw it. But at the same time, if somebody came back to me and said, that's basically what happened, I wouldn't be stunned by that either. But it's somewhere in between. But they didn't want to do this anymore, Terry.
Right.
And again, A&M is really good.
Well, how he handled it Sunday didn't help him either. First of all, the governor getting involved is so, you and I told me, this is so Louisiana. But the governor, since there is no permanent president at LSU, the governor said, guess what? I'm now also the president of LSU. And so the governor gets involved to get rid of him. But Kelly met with Woodard, the AD, and basically Woodard was like, okay, you got to get rid of the offensive coordinator, Joe Sloan. And then in pure Brian Kelly fashion, I'll get rid of the offensive line coach, Brad Davis. You know where Brad Davis is from, Jay?
Yeah.
Baton Rouge.
Yeah, right. I'll say right there.
So, again, this is Kelly again going, okay, I'll get rid of my OC. I'm getting rid of your O-line coach that I inherited. How about that, pal? And we see where it all went. All right, we got to hit a break. We will come back. It's Reaction Monday. We'll get to Bobby talking about sense of motivation for South Carolina moving forward now after a gut-wrenching loss to Bama on Saturday. Post-game show here on The Game.
Holidays are getting close. Time to think about all the family and friends coming around to gather around the playoff games, the holiday specials, so much more. Integrated media ready to brighten your holiday mood. Not just for the holidays, though. I mean, for years and years to come. Whatever season may be out there for you. But now's a great time to call the guys at Integrated. Get ahead of that holiday and playoff rush, especially well ahead of the big game, which is actually when a lot of folks like Integrated get super busy. The latest and amazing HD TV technology, Dolby Atmos sound all across the house, whether it's built in or the Sonos wireless speakers you can pick up and move wherever you want to do it. Outdoor systems as well. Plus, this time of year, great time to add some security and lighting. They can do all that for you, too, and control it all from one app right there on your phone or tablet. 803-948-8327. Love what they've done for me. Can't recommend them highly enough. That's my friends at Integrated Media.
Out of 16's hands unless you're real sure. Two tight end set. Third down and 1. The ball on the 10-yard line. It is Lenoris left side. 5, 4. Touchdown Carolina. Touchdown. Lenoris Sellers from 10 yards out. You got yourself a star. Give him the football. The extra point could make it 22-14. Carolina with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
There you go. Again, Todd Ellis on the call. The Norris Sellers touchdown. Norris keeps it, goes around the left end, rolls into the end zone pretty much untouched, and the Gamecocks took the lead at that point, 22-14. Post-game show, Terry Ford, Jay Phillips hanging out the house. He wanted to do some yard work, and wife gave him a to-do list, so we figured we'd just hook a portable headset on him as he walked around and cleaned the house. How's that going?
I wish. I wish. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey,
yeah, it's going. It's going. No yard work today. No yard work.
You gonna skip the yard work today?
Yeah. Although I did have a big planter turnover on the patio. I needed to go fix that while it was pouring down rain. I was like, well, I better fix that before somebody yells at me.
Oh yeah.
So I did that much. So that was yard work. That'll count.
Get the wrath of Mrs. Phillips. You leave that laying around, pal.
That'll count. That'll count.
All right. Obviously, we've talked a ton about Carolina's 29-22 loss to Alabama. It is a Reaction Monday. Don't forget Shane tomorrow, 1 o'clock, with his typical weekly presser right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Again, that is 1 o'clock, Shane Beamer's weekly presser. It is a Reaction Monday. Let's go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6100. Bobby's been holding on. Bobby, we appreciate you hanging on, my man. You are on the post-game show on The Game. What's up?
Hey, guys. Good to hear Jay's voice from the couch. Hope Jay is resting comfortably as much as possible.
Thank you.
This game, absolutely. Terry, you haven't been around it as long as Jay and I have, but I'm sure you have heard the two dreaded words, chicken curse. Mm-hmm. And that was basically what happened with us, because I fall for it every time, fellas. When we went up 8, I think you just played the highlight. I thought, this is it, baby. We got this thing. And when I saw the students moving down, oh, man. But as Bill Gunter pointed out earlier, we should have known better. And I will say even this, I think for once we actually caught a break, it sounds like, with officiating, because I don't know if you saw that guy, Terry McCullough, on Twitter, who, they bring him in to do football games and chime in. Mm-hmm. But he basically said that Nick Harbor got away with pushing the other kid in the back into the ball on that punt return muff, yeah. And that should have been ruled down at the spot for Bama. But hey, we've been in this league long enough to know that a lot of times it swings the other way. So,
absolutely.
Listen, I want to ask you about, as far as motivation, what you guys, it's Terry, and I think Jay would agree with this. Jay, we've seen a lot of close losses over our many years, and sometimes they turn into things that portend well for the rest of the season, and sometimes, like last year with LSU. And then sometimes they just don't really hold a lot of water the rest of the season. So my concern here, guys, is last year we went on that unbelievable run and actually put ourselves in playoff contention with the fact that, best case scenario here, if we went out, we'd be, 7-5. That's obviously a whole different, ball game as far as target there for best case scenario. What are your thoughts as far as maybe is it unrealistic to expect the same level of motivation from these guys on a weekly basis here on out, knowing what kind of schedule we have as well versus last year when we tried to make a run to the playoff?
All right, Jimmy, Bobby, we appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Jay, you go first. Go ahead, my man.
Yeah, and thank you for the well wishes too. Gosh, I look, level of motivation, Terry. I think we've seen under this particular head coach that these young men continue to play hard. So I certainly will continue to expect that. Like I said, you got to find ways to motivate yourself when you're a seemingly overmatched opponent. Now, look, they don't care about spreads, and they don't talk about those kind of things, and they don't talk about FPI, computer projections. They played well the other day. They didn't play well enough to win, but they did play well in a game where you were a double-digit home dog. You got to take that type of effort into Oxford on Saturday night. And I suppose, Terry, have a shred of hope that you do catch Mississippi coming off a big road victory and maybe letting down just a little bit in an environment that so many of us, and I know you like to talk about it a bunch, has a big atmosphere. I think Lane has certainly helped Mississippi football turn a corner that they haven't been, in a neighborhood they haven't been in since maybe the 60s.
Yeah, early 60s probably, yeah.
Yeah, so, there's that, and maybe last year against Kentucky was their so-called wake-up call for a moment like that too. I don't know. We'll find out. He kept talking about their motivation, Mississippi's motivation, and how he thought they were the better team against Georgia and didn't win the football game. He may be right. But they went out and won this weekend. Well, Carolina needs to do something similar. And if you could find a way to split these road games. I mean, look, Lord knows if you could win them both, but that feels unlikely with who you're playing and where you're playing. But if you could find a way to split these, and then you have Coastal Carolina and Clemson coming to your house, there's some motivation. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, Terry, and you know this about me now. I'm the first one to say 6-6 is no longer good enough for this football program.
Yeah.
But considering an alternative of not being anywhere, it is better than that.
Yeah.
So if that's what you got to motivate you so that you can play in the postseason and some of these guys can continue to make a name for themselves when it comes to the next level, then so be it. That has to be your motivation. But I think just going out and playing as hard as you can is what Shane's going to tell his guys. Like, hey, we played well. Let's do 1, 2, 3. Let's do those things better this weekend, and maybe we win the football game. And maybe he's right. We'll find out. But I know it's a tall order. I'm not here to blow smoke or pump sunshine.
Right.
But that's my answer to the question. You go out and just play another great game of football and see what happens.
And you hit it with one thing we see. Look, a couple years ago, that 2-6. I mean, there were teams that would quit. There are teams that would, everybody's going, okay, when's the portal open? But that team stayed together, won 3 straight, and this fell short against Clemson in that final game here at Willie B to get to a bowl. But they kept playing hard.
And again, played well that night. They played well that night against Clemson,
I mean, remember, Clemson
certainly was extraordinary.
That was a very low-scoring slobber knocker that Clemson got that touchdown early on the weird fumble. And, again, after that, everybody just sat there and punched each other in the head for 4 quarters. So I think they're going to play hard. That's not going to be an issue. I think, though, Shane is great to find a way to motivate these guys and keeping the culture together. Well, the one thing with me, though, Jay, is the other part of, like, this game against Bama or the Missouri game this year, the LSU game, is you felt like last year, and obviously, I've heard of this chicken curse thing a lot. But last year, you figured maybe you killed that thing, right? You came back to beat Missouri on that last drive. You beat Clemson late with a drive and then a stop on defense. So you had big moments against quality teams, and you found a way late in the game to win and not lose a close one. You were on a 6-game heater, and you knocked off Oklahoma and A&M and Vandy, and you just felt like maybe you turned the corner and killed this kind of stuff, and now it's back chewing at you again. And we got a couple seconds here, but how frustrating is that, Jay, when you think you're past something and then you find out, okay, temporarily at least I'm not?
Yeah, I don't have enough time in this segment to answer that question. So let me.
Why don't we hold it over and you answer it for me in the next segment? Let's do that.
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
All right. It is the post-game show. Jay Phillips hanging out at the house, doing some vacuuming, wearing his maid's outfit. Jalen's here. Terry Ford will come back. We'll continue on this conversation. If you thought maybe these curses were basically killed last year, and now, at least right now, they seem they're back again biting at you if you're a Carolina fan. That is next on a Reaction Monday on the postgame show right here on The Game.
All right, Griffin Pools and Spas ready to help you out this time of year. Yeah, okay, we're pretty much past the point of the outdoor pool season. However, if you are already a pool owner, now is a great time to get some things taken care of. Maybe your pool's just not quite up to snuff. Maybe it's time for a new pump and filter system. Get some equipment upgrades. Maybe you've got a vinyl pool and that liner is starting to show its age, whether it's the chemicals in the pool, the sunlight, or just, father time. Well, call Griffin Pools and Spas. Let them help you out, whether it's pool and spa repair, equipment upgrades, those vinyl liner replacements, safety covers. Listen, keep things nice and clean, but also safe for the pets and for the little ones out there. They can also do a water analysis now so that you can have that water ready to go next year when you're ready to dive in. Or you can get a brand new hot tub, brand new spa, or call them now and get an in-ground pool built and be ahead of the spring. Check them out right now. Learn more at griffinpoolsandspas.com.
Oh, first check on the traffic. We have an accident, North Lake Drive at Old Cherokee Road. Also at St. Andrews Road at Piney Grove, Two Notch Road at Beltline Boulevard as well. Accident has been cleared in Lexington at I-20 westbound right before Longs Pond Road at exit 51. And like usual, we got construction. I-126 between Huge and I-26. I-26 between Bush River Road and Old Sandy Run Road. That's between exits 108 and 125. And I-20 between I-26, exit 64 and 65 at Broad River Road. We'll jump back in Talk about curses. That's next on the postgame show.
And Sellers will take a man in motion, sit him down over to the right side. Out of the gun, they fake to Faison. Wants to throw an in route, now throws it and dumps it off into the hands of a Bama defender, and he runs it in on a pick six. In and out of the arms of Faison, threw it right to the defender. Deshaun Jones, and the bad luck strikes Carolina on their second drive. A pick six on an absolute ridiculous play.
There's Todd Ellis on the call, I guess, summing up the frustration of the entire fan base watching the just an innocent swing pass on the second possession. It hits Rasul Faison in the hands. It pops straight up in the air, right to Deshaun Jones. And the other part of that play was another Alabama defender kind of made sure Jones didn't fall down and kept his balance, and Jones ran to the end zone with a touchdown return off of a fluky, you got to make that catch. You don't, and it bounces off your hands, interception. And Alabama, despite being outplayed at that point, went up 7-3. Post-game show, Terry Ford, Jay Phillips, Jalen is here. And I want to get back to what we brought up there at the end of the break, Jay. And I played that cut just specifically because, again, the odds of the ball bouncing off of Faison's hands up in the air to a Bama player. His teammate keeps his balance so he doesn't fall over. He runs in the end zone for a touchdown. And Todd said, bad luck. Is that curse kind of bad luck, Jay, we were talking about in the last segment?
As someone who just turned 55 and has been going to football games since Jeff Grants was the quarterback of the University of South Carolina, I'm going to disappoint some people. I've never once believed in the chicken curse. Sorry. Not in any sport at any time. And I'm glad you played that cut, Terry, because unbeknownst to you, I just got a text from my buddy Mac, who says, I wish people would understand we just don't have enough great players. Sellers had a nice play, just not enough luck. We throw it, receiver, or in this case, running back, bobbles it, landed in the hands of the defensive player for a touchdown. I think Mac is more correct than people want to believe when it comes to any kind of curse. Alabama's a more talented team. When I think of some of these games, and I just explained them to you, going back to my youth, a game with Nebraska, man, had it, late turnover, didn't win. A Georgia game with just a late series, 1986, I believe it was. Like, what the hell just happened? What am I watching? And you outplay them for 59 minutes and 30 seconds, and somehow Georgia found a way to win that game. Again, I could go on and on with some other examples. Think about the Tennessee loss, y'all. Y'all know the one I'm talking about 15 years ago, and maybe not quite 15 years ago, up in Knoxville. You played better all day. Somehow, one kid makes one catch. And that was a pretty talented Carolina football team, if I might add. Terry, what frustrates me, and what I think what Shane understands too, is that South Carolina. This is again, man. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. This is how you're asking my opinion, so I'm giving it to you as somebody who's been here my whole life. You got to go get more good players, and compete with teams like Alabama and Georgia and LSU and Tennessee and Florida who have more good players than you. Think of that Florida game a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about a fluke? That's a fluke, right? I mean, you draw that play up 1,000 times, and that ball doesn't carry him off a kid's helmet and into the hands of a Florida player for a touchdown. I mean, what the hell, right? Like, so maybe somebody will say, yeah, Jay, that's why there's a curse. So
Right. Someone's saying right now at their radio, "Hey, Bob,
I know.
that's the curse."
I know, and that's why I'm saying I know I'm going to disappoint some lifers around here like me because I'm a lifer and I'm now a 5-decade lifer. I've seen it. I've seen so much. I don't believe in it. When Carolina was at their best under Coach Spurrier, it's because they had an amazing roster full of talent. And that's what you have to go do. And that's much easier said than done. I understand that. In the end, Terry, did Carolina play really hard as long as they could? And then you saw the better, more talented team assert itself late on Saturday afternoon? I don't like answering that question in the affirmative, but the answer to the question is yes. I think it's that simple. Now, there are still times when you can pull the upset. And I don't just mean Carolina. I mean any underdog, right? Home, road, neutral, whatever. But I think Mac is onto it, man. You're not the more talented team. And in college athletics, far more often than not, that team, as hard as they may play, will often find themselves on the really gut-wrenching side of things, you know? Again, maybe I'm oversimplifying it to some degree, but I say it with plenty of experience around here. I almost, Terry, I'm not even kidding you. I almost wish I did believe
Right.
in a curse.
Well, it's easier, Jay. It's easier, right? Because then you can go, instead of the reasons you lose games over a long period of time, like you said, if it's more good players, or you got to execute better, or play better, coach better, whatever it is, right? AD has to do better, whatever. It's easier to go, you know what, that bleeping chicken. That chicken, like, ready? That goat, that Bambino. It's just easier, right? Because then you're saying some mystical force is stopping us from winning. It's not us. It's the supernatural. It's just easier to go to bed that way than to sit around and think about what could be causing these losses. It's easier to say, you know what? That chicken curse got us again there, Phillips.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that, but I don't. So, you know, that's where I am. I know that Carolina should have won that football game. I know Carolina should have beaten Nebraska all those years ago, now nearly 40 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, or that Georgia game that was just crazy, or, again, a host of other games like that in my lifetime. It doesn't make anybody feel any better, and I'm not really here to – that's not really my job, to make anybody feel better. I'm just here to tell you what I've seen. And look, this year, I mean, somebody else hit us. Let me go back to it. It was on Twitter. I got to bear with me for just a second. It was Brent who hit us and said, here it is. Brent says, we'll have to win out to consider this year to not be a complete loss. Either way, this season is an epic fail, all due to an offensive coordinator that is a horrible in-game play caller. Beamer has to hire, he put in all caps, Beamer has to hire a proven OC. And then he added he wants Kendall Briles. So could things like that make a big difference when you aren't as talented a team? Brent, yes. I do believe that. And I do think there are some limitations with what Mike Shula has wanted to do in today's modern college game, especially with the type of quarterback and receiving core that South Carolina has. That's my personal opinion. So am I blaming Mike Shula? No. Am I saying that there's a level of responsibility there to be more creative? Yes. And I'm not sure we've seen that enough this year as well.
And look, at the end of the day, what we've seen this year, is it massively disappointing? Yes. And if you don't at least go to a bowl game, does it look, as my kid would say, an epic fail? Yes. And
this program spends too much money to not go to miss bowls.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a huge conversation to have moving forward. And the last time they had an underwhelming non-bowl season, Shane flipped the whole thing upside down and made changes, and they go out and win 9 games. So we'll see where this goes. But, yes, some change has to be made in the offseason, obviously. We'll come back. Jay or Nay, and also a lot of phone calls we're going to get to on a Reaction Monday. Hang in there. It's the Postgame Show on 107.5 The Game and the Game Network. points. All right, quick Jay or nay. You ready, Jay Phillips? So we're going to grab a couple calls on a Reaction Monday. All right. It's not really Jay or nay. It's multiple choice today, okay? You ready?
I don't like multiple choice.
No,
I
you got
writing papers instead. No, okay.
Okay, here we go. Jay or nay, the most disappointing team in the SEC this year is A, your South. Yeah, hit me my music real quick, Jay or nay. I think we need game show.
That's right.
Ready? South Carolina Gamecocks, Texas Longhorns, Auburn Tigers. No, LSU Tigers, I'm sorry.
Well, considering preseason expectation, it's either LSU or South Carolina. I guess Texas was number one, but I'm not sure that Texas is dead yet. And Auburn, I didn't have any expectations for. So, LSU.
All right.
A hair over South Carolina.
All right. Right now, we have a scenario where the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the Vanderbilt Commodores, and the Indiana Hoosiers could all be in the playoff. Which one is the most surprising to you?
Oh, golly. Well, it's not Indiana anymore. And I mean, based on how Vandy was kind of coming into the season, let's go Georgia Tech, especially for being undefeated, man.
All right. Yeah, how about those Yellow Jackets? How about that?
Yeah.
All right. It's a Reaction
I
Monday.
like Haynes King, though. I like Haynes King a lot, Terry. That kid's
he's a gamer. He's something else, man.
He's gutsy, man.
He is something else, dude. Man, that cat would run headfirst into traffic on I-20 for a first down. He's insane.
He would.
He is insane. It's a Reaction Monday, 803-404-6100. David, thanks for holding on. You're on the post-game show on the game. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, Jerry. Hey, Terry. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Good, man.
Hey, Jay, you brought up a good point and said that, this school spends too much money not to go to a bowl games. And I agree with you. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody when I ask this, but do you think that money is being spent in the right places? Like Georgia, all of the good teams, they put their money in the offensive line. Is South Carolina investing enough with NIL in the offensive line? And also, Jay, my family, you are in my family's prayers, man. We love what you do. You're going to beat it, dude. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. That means more than you know. In terms of the football part, South Carolina must improve it on offensive line play.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've made a change to someone who is a proven offensive line coach at a high level in this conference. So you've got your guy in Sean. Now you need to help Sean go get guys to coach and teach, Terry. Because again, we've seen Sean do it. So that's not a problem. But the answer to that question is no. South Carolina is not doing enough. I don't want to go too hard in a comparison to Georgia because it's Georgia. But if you ask me what's one thing that is a constant about Georgia over the last 50 years, I would tell you they always have a tremendous offensive line.
They win. So. They beat you up at the line of scrimmage. That's what they do. All right, 803-404-6100. Get one more in for the top of the hour on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Keith, thanks for hanging. You're on the post-game show on the game. What's up, my man?
Hey, guys. Hope y'all doing well. And, Jay, I'd rather be able to do this off the air, but being a pastor, I've been praying for you and your family and will continue to, but I love the show. Try to listen every day. Look,
Thank you,
look, we all can say Saturday was better, but, yeah, we've got to have improvement. And my concern is you look at the way universities are buying out contracts and they're not being good stewards of the people that support the program, that give. It's just gotten out of hand, and I don't know the answer. I don't know in the landscape of college football today if we can be successful. I just don't know. But if it just comes down to spending money, that just breaks my heart. But love the show, and y'all have a great day.
We appreciate you, Keith. Thank you,
Keith. Listen, in today's world, I think South Carolina is poised to be a team that can. I mean, they almost did last year, and I know almost doesn't count, Terry. But if Indiana's doing it, if Vanderbilt's doing it, if Georgia Tech is doing it, you can do it. I mean, heck, there was a time, and I know people say, well, Nike money, Oregon, but Oregon had no history whatsoever, and it was money that fueled an initial surge under Rich Brooks all those years ago, and all those guys to turn it into something different. Carolina isn't some unknown commodity. They're an average football program, but if Mississippi can do it under Lane Kiffin, if Clark Lee can have Vanderbilt poised, if Kurt Signetti can simply arrive with some transfers primarily from James Madison, South Carolina can do it. Better stewardship of the money? Yeah, I'll give you that. That's certainly something that can be looked at and done, and I think that's one of the reasons Jeremiah's doing what he's doing.
And I'll say this, Jay, you hit it on the head. If Vanderbilt and the Georgia Techs and the Indianas of the world can get to this height, South Carolina can as well if it's done correctly and intelligently. All right, 5 o'clock news sponsor Integrated Media is next here on the postgame show. All right, let's get a check on traffic. A couple accidents, I-20 eastbound after White Pond Road, exit 87. Also in Columbia, North Lake Drive at Old Cherokee Road. Assembly at Elmwood, also in Columbia, Boston Avenue at South Carolina 302 as well. Rawle Road near South Carolina 204. I-20 westbound at Long's Pond Road. That accident has been cleared. And that's pretty much a check on what's going on with the roads. 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media coming up next here on the Postgame Show. Jay and Terry and Jalen on the game. All right, it's time to go to our correspondent in the field, Jay Phillips with the 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media. Jay, are you available in the field?
Something like that, yes, I am available. Let's put it that way. Yeah, disappointing 29-22 loss for South Carolina on Saturday. That drops them to 3-5 on the season. Just one win now in conference play. Carolina travels to Mississippi Saturday night at 7. The Rebels installed as a 13.5-point favorite. But this one was about heartbreak at the end. South Carolina's defense was extraordinary through most of this ball game. And when they took an 8-point lead, you felt like, all right, one more big defensive stop here, and this ball game is yours to close out. Instead, Alabama went the distance, tied it at 22. South Carolina then had the ball and an opportunity. Lenora Sellers fumbles. Alabama picks up a big first down on that drive, goes in to score. South Carolina let them basically score with about a half a minute to go. Gamecocks could not mount any kind of 91-yard comeback, and it's the Tide who remain in the top 5. Shane Beamer, though, they tried to get some things done. We've all talked, and many have complained. Many have done more than complain when it comes to the offense. Here's Shane Beamer on trying to put a few new things in to keep the Tide defense off balance.
I told Tree that's a tough call. You guys saw it better than I did. Looked like he was in pretty good position and looked like one of the greatest NBA players that flops at times in the lane. Maybe 11. He didn't, but I thought Tree was in pretty good position. Maybe not, but that's what I told Tree. We talked about just that we needed to, it's easy to say simplify, but we were probably less volume in the game plan today. Just because I told Mike and the offensive coaches, we ain't gonna out scheme Alabama. Let's get whatever our best freaking stuff is schematically, and let's get it in the game plan, and figure out who our best players are, and just feature our best plays and our best players over and over and over again. And I don't care if we have 10 plays in the game plan, just run those 10 over and over again. So we tried to really dial in, and we do that every week. So it's not, Shane took till game 8 to figure that out. No, we do that every week, or 7, whatever today was. But really just kind of trying to condense on what we're doing. We wanted to be able to, spread them out a little bit more with a few more open sets, whether it be empty or, 2x2 open, 4 wides, whatever you want to call it, just to kind of spread them out and bring less people into the box 18. For our offensive line and tight ends to have to block. We wanted to be able to, run him. We threw a couple wrinkles in there with just some formations and run schemes. And then we wanted to, I told Mike earlier in the week, look, if we drop back 25, or if we throw 25 passes today, it doesn't need to be 20 just sit in the pocket and drop back. We need to be able to move the pocket. We need to throw screens. We need to be able to get the ball out of his hands quickly, that we got playmakers at the receiver position and tight end position and running back, and we need to be able to, sit in the pocket and throw the ball downfield at times, but we also got to be able to just get the ball out of his hands quick and get them in space and make people have to, deal with us.
So, Terry, they got a lot of receivers involved in this ball game. They didn't run well, other than Lenoris himself running well. And I hear Shane in there saying, no, Shane didn't wait till game 8, but you do wonder where the line was drawn perhaps between head coach and offensive coordinator when it came, whether we want to call it simplify or highlight. And what I mean by highlight is, I think to Shane's point, look, this goes back, Terry, to the Satterfield conversations. Who do we have and what do they do well? Why aren't we calling more of that? And I think that's the highest level of fan frustration that I totally support and understand. Again, I even made the point about a couple of just runs up the middle when you have to know the defense is basically waiting for you to run the ball up the middle. What are you doing to keep them off balance? That's something you and I have talked about. It's something other fans have talked about. And maybe it didn't take until game 8 to completely do it, but it and even this past weekend, I can't sit there and tell you that they did as much of it as people would like. Now, look, you got to have some things that remain a constant in football, and I know you want to run. I get it, and you want to run up the middle. I get it, but it does almost feel like it was finally Shane going, "Dadgummit, Mike, put him in position to go win the football game." I know that's probably not what happened, but in a lot of ways, in the nicest possible way, it sounds like that's what Shane just told us.
You think Shane dropped the dadgummit?
Yeah, something like that.
Throughout the dadgummit. Hey, you know what, though? And look, I get what Shane's saying. We have these conversations every week. It's not like it's the first week I walk in. Oh, this is what the offensive room looks like. All right, cool. Let me come in here and talk to you guys. But that offense looked different on Saturday. Now, it's still only 22 points. It wasn't explosive by any sense. Again, red zone issues, bogging down with some penalties and, turnovers, whatever. No one's sitting here saying it reminds us of, the greatest show on turf. But it looked different on Saturday. Linares was much more involved in the run game, more design runs. I think he had, as many, if not more, design-type runs, Jay, than he did scrambles. That might be the first time all year.
Maybe.
It did look different. And so whatever Shane went in and talked about this week, it ended up making the offense look different. But you and I go back to this all the time. We've done this. I feel like you and I have had this conversation at least 17,000 times. Get the ball in your best player's hands as many times as humanly possible. And I just think sometimes either you come up with that game plan, dude, and you put it together, and you've had 3 hours of sleep, all week long, and you got it, and it's pretty, and it all makes sense on the chessboard, right? And then you get out there on Saturday, and it's felt like this year. And I'll use the Jay Phillips word, dadgummit, I'm going to run this game plan. And that's what I'm going to do. I don't care. You know how much I worked on this dadgum game plan? And because like you watch it sometimes, and we even saw Saturday a little bit of, okay, we're going to run it again. Okay, we're running this again, like Shane said. If you got 10 plays, run them. And maybe, once again, not like Marcus Satterfield, but kind of in the same vein, hey, let's pare this thing down, guys. Let's just stick with what we do really well. Let's not try to do things that do make sense, but we can't do them. Let's stop trying to do them, except that run up the middle, because that drives Jay crazy. But the rest of it, let's try other stuff. And it's one of those things that you do as a fan. It's human nature, right, Jay? You go, man, what took you guys so long?
And that's the one. That's it. It's the what seems to have taken so long, and I think that's a fair question. And we may look if a few more plays here and there hit, we don't have some of these same conversations. We all understand that part of it too. But it just felt like this offense lacked, if not creativity, then that at times it seemed to lack an understanding of the usage of the personnel that's available to you, and that you wanted to do something that, again, it just felt, I'm oversimplifying here to make my point, but it far too often felt like what you were doing was basically being done to set up a play action pass. I know it's not that simple. But that's the way a lot of people looked and felt about it, and I can understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I just feel like, look, I understand, you hire people and you step back and let them do their jobs, right?
Yeah.
But, at some point, and it feels like Shane did it this week, maybe more than usual. He did it with Marcus Satterfield. He did it with Clayton a couple years ago. Shane steps back and gives you the space to do your thing and eventually steps in and says, okay, look. Yeah, I've never coordinated an offense or I've never coordinated defense, but I know what I want. And I know what I see, and I know we got to do something different. And and again, to the fan frustration, I understand why didn't you grab a hold of this thing like in week 3 or 4 and maybe kind of had these conversations you had last week, and that is a frustrating thing because again, like the stuff we were talking about. It's not like it's space age stuff no one's ever said, right, Jay? It's like, no, your best player is 16. We went over those usage numbers early in the year. He needs to be involved a lot, running it and throwing it. And it's not like you and I run Mensa meetings on the weekends, but it was just plainly obvious that your best player needs to affect the game more than he's been affecting the game. And he did affect the game on Saturday. And he had a good game. Yeah, he had some things he'd love to have back and had a turnover he'd love to have back. But he affected the game more Saturday than we've probably seen. Oh, the other game close is Kentucky.
Right. Yeah, that's why I say I think, I said that in my open today. Was it their best game? No, because they didn't win. Was it their best effort? All things considered, pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much, and it wasn't enough against a team that ended up, when they needed to most, simply being better than you. And again, I don't like saying that, but I think that's kind of where it was for the Gamecocks. Jalen, we'll get to that other cut I had for Carolina coming up as part of the Gamecock Notebook here in just a little bit. Continuing, though, our integrated media headlines of the day. The latest AP Top 25 college football poll is out. No changes 1 through 6. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Bama, Georgia, Oregon all remain the same. Mississippi actually goes over Georgia Tech, who did go to 8-0 with a win over Syracuse, but the Rebels and the Jackets trade spots, rather. Vandy is up to number 9, their highest ranking, Terry Ford. Did you see this? Or do you want to give you a quick trivia?
Go for it.
Their highest ranking since 1937.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Run that.
That's crazy.
Hey, Jay, how many guys are on the team from 1937?
None of them, Ter.
You sure?
Brand new team.
You sure?
Yep, brand new team. BYU and Miami are tied for 10th. Notre Dame is 12th. Texas Tech is 13th. Tennessee up 3 spots to 14. They dismantled Kentucky. We'll have more on that in the drive around because I'm not sure if the Kentucky head coach is long for his job. Virginia is 15th. Did y'all see the end of that game? Virginia, North Carolina?
Let me tell you something. Tony Elliott, he's doing one hell of a job in Virginia bringing the Cavaliers to promise.
If y'all missed it, this game went to overtime, tied at 10. Virginia got the ball first in overtime, scored a touchdown to take the lead. North Carolina scored, and Bill Belichick decided to go for 2.
Went for it, man.
Virginia, and I don't mind that.
No, I don't either.
Me neither.
I don't either.
I don't have a problem.
I got zero problem with that, Jay. I mean, you've stunk all year. It's not like you've got something on the line.
Go win the game.
Do it, man.
Yeah.
Go win.
Exactly. Go win the game. And Virginia stopped the Chapel Hill player about I don't know. Jalen, help me out here. About 3 inches.
Yeah, it was really close.
But Virginia holds on. They go to 7-1. Louisville is 16. Cincinnati 17. Oklahoma 18. Mizzou drops 4 to 19 after their loss in Nashville, and Texas is number 20 at 6-2. I'm surprised Texas is still in pretty good shape.
You know what's interesting, Jay? They went up despite barely surviving in Starkville as a big favorite.
Yeah, but they're still alive. They just can't lose again.
No, they can't.
Final five, Michigan, Houston, Southern California, Utah, and Memphis. And for what it's worth, Cincinnati at Utah will be your game day site this coming weekend. World Series continues tonight with the Dodgers hosting the Blue Jays. It'll be Max Scherzer going for Toronto. Tyler Glasnow will go for L.A. Game is set for 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific. And just a fun note, saw this, I didn't come up with it, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto the other day retired the most batters in order in a World Series, 20, since Don Larsen's perfect game in the 1956 World Series. That is remarkable.
That's crazy.
Stuff,
ridiculous. And you and I were having this conversation earlier today. It's like, look, I will I will die on the hill of elite starting pitching is still the hammer in the postseason, despite everything that the world of baseball is doing to lessen the effect of the starting pitcher. If you got dudes like that, let them run. I give Dave Roberts a ton of credit. He didn't take him out when he hit 100 pitches. He didn't overthink the room. He said, "Hey, Bob, going back out there till I come get you."
He was dealing,
And he just kept dealing.
Yes.
He was dealing.
When you've retired, how many times, though, guys, have we seen the starting pitcher dealing like that and the manager come and get him because of pitch count or matchups or whatever, instead of saying, bro, they can't hit you. Keep going.
That's why I like Dave Roberts. That's why I like
Dave Roberts. That strategy. I loved it. Way to go, Dave Roberts.
And real quick, by the way, Denver beats the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys, of course, got better in run defense when they traded Micah. The Cowboys allowed 6.4 yards per carry and had 0 sacks against Denver, who scored 40.
There you go.
Just thought I'd bring that up.
That's our integrated meeting.
That's our headlines.
Post-game show, Gamecock Notebook is next. All right, we'll get to it. Gamecock Notebook today. We're going to open it up and talk to you on a Reaction Monday on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6100. Let's get started with John. John, appreciate you holding on, my man. You're on the postgame show on the game.
Jay, in spite of your last comment, I still wish you well and still have you on my church's prayer list, buddy. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Didn't
see that coming yesterday. Didn't see that coming yesterday. I thought Denver would win, but I didn't know Dallas would capitulate quite in the manner they did. So there's that.
Jay, I see that coming every Sunday. But anyway, and that was even before the Parsons trade. But anyway, going back to Carolina in general, yeah, that one stings worse because of the season we're having. If we had found a way to hold on against Missouri and found a way to pull one out against LSU, yes, this one would still sting, but it's not nearly as bad as it is because this is really the first time all season, I think, that everyone felt like, yes, we're going to hang on, we're going to pull this one out, and we're going to make it happen. And it didn't happen, and that is what really sucked about the other day. But one thing that I have noticed is that the other day, 22 points by the offense. Since Mike Shula took over the offense for the Cheez-It Bowl last year, that's the highest output of points that Carolina has had in the 9 games that it's happened. Yes, Carolina probably did have its best effort game the other day, but 22 points through 9 games is still unacceptable. Jay, you kind of stole my thunder because, to start off a game-winning drive or a potential game-winning drive with 2 runs right at the offensive line, which, again, 2 weeks ago, you just fired the offensive line coach, that is it's unacceptable. And I've had friends that are telling me that it's time to fire everybody. I said, look, the only way that Shane loses the fans and loses the confidence of everybody is if he insists on bringing Mike Shula back next season. I just don't see in any way, shape, or form that at this point you can justify bringing Mike back. I don't dislike Mike as a person, but the proof is in the pudding. The offense is just not getting it done. We've got probably the best quarterback in program history from a pure talent point. You've got a freak at wide receiver who is 6'5", 225, the fastest man in the world, and you only throw to him one time the other day. That's where you need to really open the field up a little bit. Use Nick Harbor in the middle of the field, have him go up against the linebackers and the safeties, and make them beat you with that. I don't know. It's just maddening because of the expectation that we had coming into this season, and just the failure to live up to any of that expectation. Look, sometimes teams don't meet expectation. That happens. You get beat sometimes by better teams, like Saturday. It happens. But when you come in with the offense that you basically are returning minus 2 key players from a year ago, none of which are quarterbacks, then you should be able to measure up to some level of that expectation, and we haven't done it. I don't know how I feel about this game coming up because I think Ole Miss is honestly just a bet. I think both games coming up, these last 2 conference games, are bad matchups compared to the matchup we had with Alabama. So, I don't know. I hate writing a season off, but at this point, your biggest goal out there is to basically go out and win the state, which you can do. That would salvage something, but again, there's going to have to be changes after this season, which I know Shane doesn't like because he likes continuity, but you can't justify it at this point.
All right, thank you, John. We appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, man.
I think you made a lot of great points in there, and thank you for the kind wishes as well. Yeah, Terry, I think the number one point I'll seize upon there, because again I think he made a lot of good ones. You've been underwhelming on offense relative to the talent you have, and it doesn't seem that this offense ever found a way to utilize their best weapons. And I must fully agree with that. I do. It really. I know you wanted to grow Lenoris's game a little bit. I know that there was an insistence from Mike early in the season, that they're not here to quote develop him for the NFL, and that's all. They're here to win football games. But when you go and look at what his best skills are, and you go and look at this, like Shane talked about it in a cut we played during the news about trying to go to some empty sets and go 4 wide and spread the field around a little bit. How often have they really done that? Not very often. A lot more often you're going to see a 2 tight end set and the hope that somehow you're going to be able to run the football between the tackles or between those tight ends. And it never came around. And Lenoris sometimes overthinking some of the more, I don't want to say basic things because I don't want to put that on Lenoris too much, but well, gosh, coach wants me to go through all these reads, and I'm going to do it. Like I said to you like a month ago, Lenoris was making bad plays for good reasons, but they're still bad plays. Mm-hmm. Put Lenoris in positions to be comfortable, to be excited, to be happy, to have fun, and I just don't know that they were doing nearly enough of that. John made some other good points, but that to me is the biggest one. You did not take advantage of a literal generational talent at a school like South Carolina.
And to the point what John said about Nick Harbor, look, I was trying to watch the wide receivers on Saturday, since we have that cool little view from the press box. It's like an all-22 film. And, they're not, we watched Lenoris hold the ball, and, there's sometimes he'll miss a receiver, somebody's open or whatever. But a lot of times, Jay, these dudes aren't open. In that game I'm watching, and they're not getting open on their own. And, to me, the offense, you're just not, if your guys can't get open, you've got to scheme them open. You got to do, lots of crossers to confuse the defense against man. Pick plays, bunch routes where you got guys running all over the place, scaring the bejesus out of the defensive backs. If they're in a zone, you flood the zones and make them make poor decisions. I just don't see enough of scheming and helping your wide receivers get open. It's just almost like we're going to snap the ball and you're going to run this route and you're going to beat your guy. Yeah. And it's not working consistently. And one of the reasons you're watching Lenoris hold the ball so much is at times no one is open. And they're all running these deep routes, and there's no underneath. And, again, I'm watching it. I really wanted to watch that develop on Saturday. And I'm not saying that's the only reason you're not doing it. There's a multitude of reasons here. But what we're not talking about enough is this route tree and the route running and the route combinations. What are you doing to help these receivers? And that's another part of why this passing game hasn't had consistency, and you're not getting the ball to people.
Right. I agree 100%. Like I say, it feels underwhelming relative to what you had at your disposal. And it almost maybe we should have had more clues at the beginning of the season that this was going to be different relative to maybe fooling ourselves into thinking, no, here early they're just working on it. And then ultimately they'll open it up. And, again, to come to Shane's point of the clip we played earlier, it did feel like finally on Saturday they did some things different. Well, it's game 8, and maybe it's just now too little too late. So, here's hoping it's not, but you're 3-5 for a reason.
All right, we'll get back in here. Rick, you've been a wonderful man holding on. We want to give you a minute to be able to speak your piece, so we're going to make you part of the drive around the SEC. And we'll get the drive around the SEC. What happened on Saturday in the Southeastern Conference, it was interesting. We'll get to that next on the postgame show. Jay and Terry and Jalen as we roll here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and also the Game Network in Charleston, Florence, and Myrtle Beach.
AAA Heating and Air is ready to make sure that you and your family are nice and warm as we get into these cooler months across the Midlands. I know we don't get a lot of them, but they're here. Our heat kicked on last night, and I was glad about that because it got a little chilly. So if you're in the same boat, then hey, you're good to go. But if you're not, and what I mean by you're not is, when's the last time you had that furnace inspected or any other heating element that you've got to keep yourself warm? 803-677-1500, AAA ready to help you out. Maybe you are tired of paying some really high bills when it comes to your heating and air system because it's old and inefficient. A brand new system can really help you out. Plus, it'll save you even more money with guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for a full year, $1,500 rebate, and a 15-year parts and labor guarantee. Whether it is a quick repair, a brand new system, anything in between, 803-677-1500. Work with the great people at AAA Heating and Air.
Oh, quick check on the traffic. An accident has been cleared. Good news. An accident has been, two of them have been cleared. One, I-20 eastbound after White Pond Road, exit 87. I-26 eastbound at I-20, exit 107B. Now to the accidents that have not been cleared yet. I-126 westbound after Hugie. Also, Assembly Street at Elmwood Avenue. Boston Avenue at South Carolina 302. Rawl Road near South Carolina 204. Sunset Boulevard west of I-26, North Lake Drive at Old Cherokee Road. Come back, drive around the SEC, and your reaction on a Reaction Monday here on the Postgame Show on the Game.
Down for Simpson. Play action. He's rolling back to his right under pressure. It dropped. It's also a fumble. The Gamecocks scramble forward, and I believe they got it. They do. Sack and fumble recovery. Ricari Swain got the football off the edge. They come again. Simpson down and a turnover for the Gamecocks.
Fantastic play by Vicari Swain. Corner blitz off the edge. hits Simpson, causes the fumble. Huge momentum turner in the football game for South Carolina. Of course, unfortunately, a 29-22 loss by the Gamecocks at the hands of the Tide on Saturday at Williams-Brice. Post-game show, Terry Ford, Jay Phillips, Jalen Tart, and you on a Reaction Monday. Drive around the SEC in a second. First, Rick has been waiting patiently. Rick, we appreciate you. Thanks for calling us here on the post-game show on the game. What's up, my man?
Hey, guys. Y'all know the battles that I've had, but I don't want to talk about that. I was a project manager with data center cooling, Shaw Air Force Base, different ones. And you used the whatever you had available, might not be the regular guy, but it was the guy. And I think what Shane's doing is he's not using his own football IQ. I just think, I'm a baseball guy, but lifelong Carolina fan, and I just don't believe that we're using the resources that's available to our team. And it is frustrating. It is so frustrating. There's, in my opinion, there really shouldn't have been such a close game with Alabama. And I think it's on Shane that he has not stepped in and changed some things that needs to be changed. Shula, his last name does not mean that he knows what he's doing all the time. I don't know.
Appreciate it, Rick. Thanks. We got to move along to the drive around the SEC. Thanks for the call. Yeah, look, real quick, Jay. I mean, we've talked about that. What Rick has said about using your pieces and using your playmakers. Putting them in the right position to succeed, using them enough. I feel like Rick is not alone in the fan base. That is very frustrated with the way this offense. I mean, forget the point totals, but just in the way the offense has kind of not evolved through the season.
Well, I think he's absolutely right, and I think that's one of the things that we've praised Shane for, and we can question a little bit now in terms of where they were trying to make the adjustments to utilize the talent that they have, and I think that's a fair point. I think we had a caller earlier. I can't remember exactly how it went, Terry. But there's been some talk of Shane never having coordinated before. I don't put nearly as much into that as some want to, and feel how you want to feel. That's fine. And I'm not trying to compare Shane directly to these next two men, but Urban Meyer and Dabo Swinney weren't coordinators either, and they have 5 national championships between them. You can do it, and you can do it without having coordinated. Shane knows football, and that I think Rick made that point just now, Terry. Shane maybe, isn't utilizing his own, what I think is very high football IQ, but maybe it's because he does believe in the men that he's hired and wants to give them the opportunities to get it right. And this goes back to a point that the last caller, John, made about potentially, moving on from Mike Shula. We'll cross that bridge here soon enough. Shane has already told us, with the Lonnie Teasley situation, that if we need to make a change, we'll make a change. Maybe Shane felt that, okay, I've done enough as the head coach to stress to my offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach / play caller that I need something different from you. And maybe it's just kind of been more of a trickle into the game plan, Terry, than a full-on flow. And if that's the case, that's maybe why you're looking at some of the things, at least that I know frustrate me and frustrate others in terms of lack of creativity, lack of personnel usage in a more creative way. You just got to find ways to do some of that, and I don't think they've done enough. Now, is it because they don't block well and run well? Could be, because it sets so many things up, and that could be a fair point. But
sure.
At the same time, when you can't, and again, I'm not saying abandon the run game, But I go back to a few calls that we've talked about in the last game, despite maybe seeing some different things from a schematic situation, that you still were in some crucial situations. Well, let's run it up the middle and see what happens. No, let's not. Let's roll the quarterback out. Let's go 4 wide. Let's go empty set. Let's see what we can do. Or to your point, let's get those tight ends in underneath routes and then send the receivers deep. But let's have something there for Lenoris to use, or stretch that defense enough so that when the hole is there, Lenoris has that option on the RPO to really have a clear path to make some things happen. I just don't know that we've seen enough of that. It seems to just be clogged up a lot of times, and I think that's a fair assessment that Rick has made.
And real quick, then we'll get to the drive around. We'll go back to our correspondent in the field for our drive around. And again, Ryan Grubb is a high-level offensive coordinator and a good play caller. And you saw when Alabama needed to make a play, that 2-point conversion, they're doing trickeration. You know, they're doing things that break their tendencies that probably South Carolina's watched on film in major moments in that football game to their advantage, because then they go execute it. So when you see that kind of creativity in big moments and kind of like, okay, you think we're going to do this? No, instead we're going to do something off of that but go in a different direction. That's the kind of stuff that frustrates you going, why can't South Carolina do that? But anyway, drive around the SEC, sir. Go get them.
Yeah, well, the big story, of course, Brian Kelly out at LSU. Should he not work again, LSU is negotiating his buyout, which is around $54 million. He, like James Franklin at Penn State, has the obligation to try to find another job and mitigate those numbers just a bit. 49-25 losers at home, a game where in the second half, again, LSU was up barely, but it was 18-14 at the break, and then they were outscored 21-0 in the third quarter, 14-7 in the fourth quarter for the 49-25 win. A&M was absolutely fantastic. Concepcion, Reed, just marvelous with what they wanted to do offensively and on special teams. Not surprised by this, Terry. LSU will certainly believe that they will go out and get whoever Penn State and Florida most wanted. I don't know that that's the same person, Lane Kiffin.
Good luck with that.
Lane's not going to Penn State, but Lane might go to Florida. But again, I don't know if Lane's leaving. But this is going to turn into a very interesting coaching cycle and carousel, because there are some premier jobs already open. There are going to likely be a couple of more premier jobs in addition to maybe second-level jobs. And when I say premier jobs that aren't open yet, do you think that Auburn and Florida State are going to come open? I kind of do. I don't call UCLA premier from a football pedigree standpoint, but it's premier in terms of its location and conference and fertile recruiting ground. Again, Florida's open, Penn State is open, Arkansas is a good job. It's just now LSU, which is probably, in my opinion, now that it's open, Terry, it's the best job that's open. So,
I don't disagree. Not at all.
Me too.
It's not a great time to go hire coaches.
I'm going to say this. I said this to you earlier. I am hoping, just for the sheer chaos and entertainment value of it, that we hear this in 2 weeks. Lane Kiffin has signed a contract extension at Ole Miss. I am hoping for that so bad, to watch folks who think they've got Lane Kiffin or feel pretty good about it soil themselves, because now they got to start scrambling. And
if Indiana could get Cignetti locked up, then don't think that Mississippi isn't doing everything they can to do the same.
Right. We don't have time to go through the reasons why Lane should stay, but there are a lot of reasons that make sense to stay. Absolutely. All right, we'll get back on in here. Jay versus the Internet. We'll see how that goes next, as Monday Night Football is tonight with the Commanders and the Chiefs. It's a post-game show with Jay and Terry and Jalen here on the game. All right, Jay versus the internet here on the postgame show. Do that, and then we'll get to our give you a little Twitter X poll update there, Jay Phillips, on the poll question of the day. But first,
before you do Jay versus the internet, I got one thing for you. You know, today is the 32nd event of something. Have you seen this today?
No, I have not.
32nd time. It's called the Sports Equinox. It is the 32nd time in American sports.
Oh, I've seen this.
That there is an NFL game, an NBA game, at least one of each, an NHL game, and a Major League Baseball game. And now you can throw in Major League Soccer. And there's, I think, only been one time where there were actually 6 events because there was a WNBA game, I think, during COVID with some scheduling changes. But tonight is the first, or excuse me, it was the 32nd ever Sports Equinox.
How about that?
Where the 4 big leagues and now MLS, so 5, are all playing something on the same evening. How about that?
Amazing.
How about that? Look at
I didn't come up with that.
It's some guy probably sitting in their recliner with all the snacks, goodies, and food.
That's going to be this guy. This guy right here. With the TVs and the devices. I'll be all over this. Honey, I love to go to Joanne Fabric with you, but it's a Sports Equinox. I'm really sorry. I got to stay here.
Kind of cool. All
right, real quick. Give me a little music there, Jalen. Because we do have Monday Night Football tonight here, 7:30. On 107.5 The Game in Columbia.
We'll not be watching that.
Commanders at the Chiefs. First of all, Jay versus the internet.
I'd feel better if Jaden were playing. I'll say that.
Yeah, no Jaden Daniels. Keep that in mind. The spread is Kansas City 10.5 at home versus the Commanders with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. So where are you going on the? First of all, we'll start with the spread.
Yeah, I can see the Chiefs winning by 13. So give me the Chiefs.
Okay. Over under is 48.5, sir.
Under. I'm going to say. Wait, hold on. What is it again?
48.5.
Yeah, under.
Yes, I feel like Daniel's not healthy. It's an under. And finally, you ready?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes this year is averaging 257.1 yards a game throwing the football. The Washington Commanders are 26th in the NFL in pass defense at 238.3 yards a game. Over under passing yards for Patrick Mahomes right at 250.5.
Slightly over.
All right. Good deal. Nice work, sir.
Yeah,
nice work.
Slightly over. Very slightly.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs cover the number. The Commanders without Daniels. No offense to Marcus Mariota, but I think the Chiefs cover by 2 scores.
It won't be by a mile.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Just mention like a little baseball real quick here. I want to read a tweet from David O'Brien, great Braves beat writer. I'll read it in full. My guess, this was about 2 hours ago, so it was during our show. My guess is the delay in the Braves hiring a manager has less to do with casting a wide net than with waiting for Danny Lehman to finish bench coaching with the Dodgers in the World Series. I think he's the one they want, and it would signal a commitment to cutting-edge analytics and process. So that's not just from some guy. That's from DOB, who says they're waiting on Danny Lehman to leave Dave Roberts' side and head east.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say it feels like they're waiting for Lehman, is from everything I've read. So yes, absolutely. You down with that?
Yeah, it's a departure, but sometimes a departure is okay, and maybe there just aren't those guys in the Braves family pipeline this time. Again, I'd be fine with Greg Olson. I think he'd be good. I'd be fine with Walt Weiss. I think he'd be good, but maybe the Braves don't want good, and maybe the Braves are looking at the fact that the Dodgers, while they do spend a lot of money, you know who else spends a lot of money on talent? The Atlanta Braves. And you know who else can develop a farm system? The Atlanta Braves. So maybe it's time to bring some of those modern things that maybe the Braves haven't been doing as much of, even though they've been successful. Maybe it's time to blend a little bit of that.
What makes the Dodgers so dangerous, sir, is they print more money than most continents, but they're also really smart with developing and pumping money in their minor leagues and doing things like they don't have a lot of money. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you got to if you don't have a farm system, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
and
matter.
Look at the current Braves. I mean, the current Braves are still built with Braves homegrowns. You always supplement with your free agents. But
all right,
I'm fine with this.
By the way, the Twitter poll is still disapproving on letting Bama score. Jalen, nice work. Jay, excellent job, my friend. Way to go. We're all thinking of you. It's a post-game show. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll see you.
Oh, we all know that gathering family and friends around that holiday fire has been a generational tradition, and now Palmetto Propane is ready to help you upgrade that fireplace. Listen, Santa can still come down. It'll be all good. Santa knows how to get around the brand new gas fireplace. All right, you don't want him stepping on hot coals, do you? No, whether it's propane or natural gas, Palmetto Propane's premium gas logs and complete installation and service can brighten your not only holiday season, but the entire fall and winter when you want that fire. Maybe you're just tired of the wood pile out back and the bugs and the spiders and, calling the guy to get your wood delivered all the time. No, just do it this way. See the area's finest gas logs, fire features, and grills when you visit a Palmetto Propane Hearth and Patio home store. They are open all week long, and you can learn more and find a store near you at palmettopropane.com.